Hi, welcome to episode 508 of The Corner of Knit and Tea. My name is Laura. I'm also known as Fluffy Kira on Instagram and Blue Sky. I blog over at thecornerofknitandtea.com, which is where this episode and every episode show notes will be. And I have an Etsy shop called The Corner of Knit and Tea, where my handspun yarns and knitting patterns are for sale. Hi, how are you? It is Monday, February 10th, and I am coming to you, okay. I am coming to you from just outside of Kansas City, and the weather is gray and dreary today, and I am still a little discombobulated. So last week when I chatted with you, I had just spilled an entire cup of tea all over my keyboard. Unfortunately, that was not the end of my technology issues last week. On Wednesday, the hard drive in my computer died. And so I am on my laptop. I am sort of using backup technology. My laptop is 13 years old. The MacBook Pro. It still works, but if there is a degradation in the quality of the video this week, that is precisely why. I usually film on my phone and do a combination of editing on my phone and my desktop computer. I have an iMac, and it will not even boot right now. So I have an appointment with the Genius Bar for tomorrow. I suspect the hard drive is dead, and then I will have some choices to make. And so I am just trying to keep on keeping on, both with work and with all of my other stuff. And so this week we're a little bit diminished, but the show must go on. So here I am. So I hope that you are doing well, and that Mercury in retrograde or other sorts of technology issues haven't befallen you. I had actually it's so interesting. Last week was just kind of a terrible week. I was trying to get all of my work done ahead of time so that I could go off to my spinning retreat this past weekend, and more on that in just a moment. That will be the bulk of today's podcast. And all my technology was failing, and I couldn't get my work done, and it was quite a week. And that's even before I discuss what is happening in the outside world. That's just crazy. So yeah. So this week has started off a little bit better. Today I got through all my meetings and some of my work, and I still have a little bit more to do, but I am sitting down to record a podcast with you. So I hope that you're doing well. I'm drinking coffee today. I'm drinking it in my alpaca mug, so I don't have anything really new to share with you. I'm drinking an autumn blend, which is like pumpkiny and spicy, and I really, really like it. It's from our local Kansas City coffee company called The Roastery, and so that is what I am doing today. So I'm going to talk through the knits really, really quickly, and then we're going to spend time on the spinning retreat, which is really took up the bulk of my weekend and is taking up the bulk of my sort of daydreaming right now. So I did finish my mom's socks. You'll notice that the photo is what was the cover photo for this episode, but they are actually gone, so I cannot show them to you. I packaged them up first thing this morning and took them to the post office, and hopefully they will arrive in time for Valentine's Day. So I mailed them off in a package, and I was really pleased with them. I screwed up a cable, one on each sock, so they are perfectly imperfect. But I do have the photo in, like I said, it's the thumbnail for this video, and I hope that you will enjoy that. So that is done, and that leaves me to my two current works in progress that I really want to finish out the month with. So one of them is very close to being finished. In fact, I did work on it this weekend, even while I was at the retreat. I was careful not to do too much spinning at the retreat. I'll discuss that in a little bit, but I am down to the ends of, I know they still look like they have a decent amount left, but I am down to the ends of my balls of yarn. I am knitting the hipster tee or hipster top, I think. And this is a pattern by Joji Locatelli. It was inspired by her hipster shawl, which has this really great pattern of elongated stitches that are crossed over each other, and that is how you start up at the shoulders, and then you work your way down and eventually in the round for kind of a pinstripe tee. And I am going to be working until I have just enough left of the dark color to do a little bit of a ribbed band at the bottom, but otherwise I am just working until I run out of yarn, and it's a nice length now. It's a little on the short side, but I think it will actually be fine because I still have a little bit left of both of these. The yarns that I am using are Treasure Goddess, and it's her Yak Toes, which is Superwash Merino and Yak, and they are dyed in her colorways. This one is called Song of the Sirens, and this one is called From the Depths She Rose. And I actually started this when I was on a tea kick, kind of at the end of the summer, beginning of fall, and now I'm going to finish it in time to wear it in the spring, which it is decidedly not. We are supposed to get more freezing temperatures and snow midweek this week. So, in fact, everyone I know went out to get like all their supplies today because Tuesday night into Wednesday is supposed to be terrible. So we'll see, but I have a tea in progress and I want to finish this by the end of the month. I am really on a quest to try and finish out some of my unfinished objects from last year, and this is one of them. And I really, really want to be able to wear this, particularly in the spring and summer. So I have woven in most of my ends. I haven't snipped them yet because I will wash and block, but that is what I'm going to be working on this week and hopefully finish before we meet next, because that is one of the few knitting projects that I have on my slate for the rest of the month. And today is February 10th, so that gives me 20 days to finish it. I don't think I'll need that. I'm hoping I will have it done by the time I talk to you on Monday. So that means that I will also be bringing out another knit out of hibernation that I was working on last year. I worked on it quite a bit at the beginning of the year. And then once I started to have tendonitis issues in my arm, I put it aside in part because it's a blanket project. So it is heavier on the arm and the needles. And so I want to pick it back up. So I am knitting the Mosaic blanket, and it is a free pattern by Pearl Soho. I'm knitting it in two colors of Barocco Comfort, which is a 50-50 acrylic and nylon blend. The reason that I'm knitting it this way is this is a blanket for my niece and her husband, and they have two rescue pit bulls that they love. And so I wanted to get them something that they could all cuddle up with on the couch and would be easily washable. So I'm using, I believe the color is cranberry, although it's on here, it's got a number. It's 9760. I think it's cranberry, although it might be beetroot. I can't remember. It's either cranberry or beetroot, and then licorice, which is the black. And these were their wedding colors, so that was why I picked these. And the pattern is actually for technically, I think it's written for a baby blanket. It's written in a bunch of sizes, but it is a mosaic knit, which means mosaic is one of the simplest forms of color work. It's also referred to as slip stitch knitting because you are only knitting with one color at a time, and then you are slipping the remainder of the stitches. And it is a great pattern. It's absolutely lovely. I was tootling right along on it, and it's really, really pretty. And so I plan to keep working on this, and I am about between a sixth and a third of the way done. I have 6 balls of each color, and I'm in the middle of the second balls of both colors. So I am just working on this. It's got like a really nice kind of garter stitch edge. I gotta weave in these ends, but it's got a nice garter stitch edge. The pattern on the back is not as interesting. The slip stitch definitely shows up primarily on the front, although you could still see a little bit of it on the back. But it's primarily a frontwards pattern, and so I am really excited about this. And I do not expect to finish this by the end of February, but it would be great if I could put a dent in it in the next couple weeks, and then I will continue working on this until it is finished. So this is the other one that I really meant to pick up and get some good work into this month. And then in March, I'll probably take a little bit of stock of where I'm at. I did actually put away, I was kind of trying to clean some things up. I did actually put away my the excuse me sweater, which I had started for my nanny Swaymo and had abandoned when I decided it wasn't the right size, and I wanted to, and I dropped some stitches and I needed to pull it out, and I actually put that away for now, and I will pull that out later this year when I'm ready to tackle that. So that is the one UFO that I'm sort of willfully turning my eyes away from and letting rest for a little bit. My thought for March is I have a ton of scraps that I would really like to knit up for charity. I want to kind of renew my focus on that. I have done lots of charity hats and lots of charity knits for the last several years. Last year, I started the year out with great intentions and did a bunch of pairs of mittens, and I was really pleased with those. And I have a whole bin of kind of worsted weight and higher scraps in all different colors, and I would really like to put some effort into that and kind of get some of those out of the stash and onto new homes. for folks who need them. And so I think March is really going to be kind of a charity knitting focus. I'd like to pick up that dishcloth cotton and finish that stuff. And I will also be working on this blanket. So my hope is that I will have some interesting things to show you in March. But that's kind of, so I want to finish some whips this month, and then I want to work through some stash in March, kind of to make way for some other projects that I'd like to do this year. So that is kind of where I'm at in terms of the knitting. We're only a few minutes in, but now I want to turn my attention to spinning. So as I mentioned last week, I attended a spinning retreat this past weekend, and I had a blast. It was super fun. It was hosted by Treasure Goddess Yarns, who is my friend Christine, and also hosting with her were Terry Plummel, who is Fibertarian on Instagram and all the social medias. She is an active member of the local fiber guild, and someone that I've known for quite a while. She is a spinner and a knitter, and originally one of her ways into crafts was she was a seamstress for a long time. And then the third host was someone who I had not met. Her name is Megan Condon, and she goes, her own business pursuits are under Luthvarian, and she is very interesting. She is primarily sorry, let me think about this. She is primarily a vegetable, a plant fiber person. So she does a lot with cotton, linen, those kinds of things. She has a property outside of Kansas City where she is attempting to build sort of a fiber farm. She's trying to grow flax and cotton. She's also trying to grow a dye garden so that she can do some of her own natural dyeing. And she is the technical editor for Ply magazine. So she's a librarian by trade and very sort of science-minded. She brought photos to show us a bunch of different kinds of wool and silk under microscopes, like to show us what the fibers look like and which ones have scales and which ones don't, and all of those kinds of things. Anyway, she was absolutely delightful. She taught us a lot over the weekend. And so those were sort of the three hosts and teachers. And then we gathered at a local hotel and basically spent 2 days spinning. The theme of the retreat was all about silk. And Christine used it as an excuse to buy all the different kinds of silk and let us try and spin all the different kinds of silk. So as you may be aware, there are a number of different kinds of silk, or you may not be aware, there are a number of different kinds of silk. And silk is primarily determined by the worms that make the silk and what the worms eat. So for instance, mulberry or bombyx silk, it can be known by either term, is silk produced by the bombyx worm that eats mulberry leaves. And it's not every single mulberry genus, but it is some very specific mulberry plants. And tussa silk is worms that eat, I think, from the tussa plant. I'd have to go pull out. I didn't bring my fiber, but we tried a bunch of different kinds of silk. We talked about how silk spinning is very interesting. Silk is an animal byproduct. It is a protein that is basically secreted by worms, usually when they're making their cocoons so that they can turn into butterflies. There are a number of different kinds of worms and silk that they produce, and some of the silk is known as sort of peaceful silk because the worms exit the cocoon before they're done. Some is not known as peaceful silk, and that is where the cocoons are basically harvested before the worms have left, and they are boiled to sort of melt some of the proteins holding the melt some of the substances holding the silk together so that the cocoons can be unraveled. And in some cases, that does result in the worm dying because you're boiling it. But we learned some interesting facts, for instance, like mulberry silk, the bombyx worms, they turn into moths, but the moths do not have mouths. So the moths only live for a very short period of time during which they reproduce, and then they pass away because they don't have any systems to eat and process. Like they do all their eating as a worm, they go into the cocoon, they emerge a beautiful moth, and then they die very shortly after. So it was kind of interesting learning about the different types. So we spun 5 different types of silk. We spun airy silk, which is kind of a reddish tone. We spun tussa. We spun Bombyx mulberry silk. We spun Mugga. And then the final type that we spun was called peduncle. And peduncle is this great little word. So we often use sort of the byproducts of silk. The peduncle is the little part, like the little stem where the cocoon attaches to the plant. And so it's just that little stem part, and I can only imagine how much of it has to be harvested to make other silk. But that little stem, the peduncle, actually can also be spun. So silk is a very long stapled fiber. One of the things about a lot of those cocoons is that when they make the cocoon, it's actually all one continuous fiber. So technically, if you have a cocoon that's whole and has no holes in it or no place that the worms sort of ate out of, then that is all one thread. And if you can find that thread, eventually you can unwind it all as one entire thread. Now, traditionally speaking, that is a process that takes a lot of time. And so that is only done for the very finest silk. Generally, the way things are treated is they take the cocoons and they boil them or process them in some way to sort of loosen the adhesive between the silk threads. And then those cocoons are often stretched out, and they can be stretched out in a variety of ways. They can be stretched out into hankies, which you often see come as like squares. They can basically be stretched over a frame. And so there is a preparation that comes like that, and I will show you that a little bit. They can also be stretched over bell forms and other things. They can be combed, the fibers can be cut, and then they can be carded or put into other forms that can then be spun. So silk is super interesting. And so what we got to do the first day was really spin some luxury types of silk. Now, most often, there are people who spin 100% silk, but generally as spinners, the way we encounter silk is that it is blended into something else, often with wool or with other fibers that add other characteristics. So silk is very, very strong. When it is spun and when it is dry, it is like as strong as steel, and you can actually cut yourself with silk fibers because they are so strong. Like you cannot break them. You can actually cut your fingers depending on how you're working with silk. However, you can also blend it with other things to add different characteristics. For instance, wool will add some loft. It will add more warmth, although silk is fairly warm. But also, silk is a highly priced substance and generally more expensive because it's more luxury. So a lot of times they will add silk to other blends to make them a bit more luxury, but you won't be spinning 100% silk. Silk can be very slippery, which we learned in spinning it, particularly in the 100% blends. And then it can also, depending on what variety it is, it can also have a little bit more grab. So we spent a lot of time learning to spin silk sort of in 100% 100% proportions. And then we also learned how to spin some silk blends. We learned about different ways to spin it, whether you want to, say, draft it as you would draft normal wool fiber, whether you want to spin it from the fold, whether you want to spin it worsted or woolen. And so we spent a lot of time with all of those things, and it was so much knowledge crammed into my brain that I'm still kind of reeling from all the information. And I'm still also not used to spending a lot of time in a room with a lot of other people. It was wonderful. There were about 15 or 16 of us. And it was a really, really lovely group. Folks from the local yarn store, folks from various spinning guilds that exist in the city. I met some new people. I reconnected with some folks that I hadn't seen since before the pandemic. It was super, super fun. But both days, 10 to 4, in a room full of people, plus dinner out, plus an evening kind of pajama party. And by the end of the second day, I was ready to come home and take a nap. I was so tired just from learning and practicing and hanging out with people. So I thought what I would do today is I don't have a lot of the results from what I've spun because I did little samples and stuff, but I'd like to really play with it. And so I think I will show you more of what I've been experimenting with over time, you know, sort of as I'm home. I came home with 2 huge trash bags of fiber. And literally she had to put them in trash bags. Like one was our goodie bag, and then I bought some extra samples based on what I liked that we were spinning. And so like I have all kinds of things to play with. So the things that I'm going to show you are, I'm going to show you what I dyed at the dye day because I talked a little bit about that last week. And then I will show you what I am currently spinning. so that you can see what I'm kind of working on right now. So that's what I'm going to do, and then we'll call it quits for today. And I will tell you more over time as I start to pull things out. I have some great colors and fibers, and I think I'm going to be doing a lot more plain combinations of like some wool and some silk and a few other things. So the first thing that we dyed at dye day were silk hankies. They're called hankies because they are kind of stretched over a square frame. And so they are pretty delicate, but they are kind of silk in its raw form. And I dyed two sets. The first set I dyed with a lot of, I'm sorry for the crackling. I didn't pull these all out because they're very, very delicate. Well, okay, I should say they're not super delicate in the sense that it's like almost impossible to felt them. What they are is they're very delicate fibers. They get caught on every little catch on your skin, and they kind of get messy really quickly. And so when I want to work with them, I will take them out, but I will also scrub my hands, usually with a sugar scrub or a little salt scrub, to kind of slough off all the extra skin, kind of take care of the hangnails. And then I will handle them very, very carefully because I don't want them to get fuzzy and kind of fluff up. But so the first one that I did was I dyed in greens and turquoises. And so that I was really, really really pleased with that. Just lots of blues and greens. And then the other one, I was going for sort of a burgundy and orange, and the burgundy came out a little bit more pink. But that's kind of what I have going on there. So those were the two sets of hankies. Each of these is half an ounce. And I don't know if you can see kind of at the edge here, you can see these edges each so that is like tons and tons and tons of single threads of silk right there. So like this is probably 50, maybe more hankies, and they are incredibly delicate, and you can split them out one at a time. And there's a very specific method for pulling them apart and drafting them. And I have to be 100% honest with you. I adore the way these look, and I do not enjoy spinning them that much. So I dyed these, I kept these because they are beautiful and I want to take a look at them, but I don't know exactly when I'll be spinning these because I did not enjoy the process of spinning them that much. The other two things I dyed, I love. This one I absolutely love. This is a batch of Polworth and Tessa Silk. It's 8515. And on this one, I tried to do three colors. I tried to do kind of a rosy pink, kind of a darker pink, and then a green. And it just came out so springy and fresh. And I'm really, really excited to spin this. I love Polworth. Polworth is a super soft, crimpy wool, very akin to merino. And then it's got a bunch of silk in it. So it's got little bits of luster. And I don't know if you can tell, like right here, maybe you can see the silk takes the dye a little bit differently than the rest of the braid. So like you can almost see like little bits of purples in the silk there. Let me see. Oh, you can see like I used green, but you can see a little bit of the blue that I put in the green, and the silk took the blue a little bit. So I think that's going to be really, really fun to spin when I decide to spin that up. And then the final one is sort of interesting because it did not take the dye the way I thought it would. I wanted to make sort of a dark violet colored braid, so like dark, dark purple. And then I put together kind of a navy, and then I put together kind of a periwinkle. And I thought maybe they'd flow into each other. And this braid took almost none of the dye, so it looks almost natural, except for it has a lot of kind of pinky purple spots. So this is a merino. This is a Polworth silk and yak. It's a 60-20-20. And so the yak is kind of this grayish color, or sorry, the blend is kind of this grayish color, and you can see that like there's darker bits, that's the yak, the lighter bits, that's the Polworth, and then you can see kind of the white streaks, that's kind of the silk in there. And it took like bits of it took kind of pinky purple, but for the most part, it's generally kind of just gray. And I haven't decided what I'm going to do with it. I could try and over dye it, although what she said was basically that there was like tons of dye still left in the pot, but it wouldn't soak it up. So it kind of decided it was done taking up dye molecules. It was saturated, even though it doesn't look saturated. So I may just spin it as is. I haven't decided yet. But that was the other one that I dyed at the dye day. So finally, I thought I would show you what I am spinning right now. And I decided that I wanted to combine two things. We got lots and lots of little samples for like an ounce or two of one thing and an ounce or two of another. And I was trying to decide how I wanted to put them together and how I might like to use them. And she suggested that we try combining things and just playing and experimenting. And so I am currently spinning. This is it's not all of it because some of it's on the wheel, but this is 2 ounces of the Polworth yak silk, and it's in her dark colorway, which is pretty much Song of the Sirens. I think she called this Cabernet, but it's like a dark wine color. And then in our goodie bags, was also this bag, which is from Blackwater Treasures. She is a local dyer to us, but she only does shows. She has a website, but I don't think you can buy anything from her website. And this is hand dyed Tessa silk roving. This is 100% silk roving, and it is also in this wine colorway. And I thought these applied together would be really, really beautiful. So, and this is 2 ounces, and this is 3 ounces. So, my plan is to spin both of these and then apply them together. And then I'll have some leftover of this. And actually, I have a little bit more of something that's almost this color. So I might spin that and then apply that together just to finish those off. But I started spinning this one at the retreat and then with the idea that I would spin this one here. And you'll see that that is a common thing because I ended up buying a couple braids that are one color and buying some of this extra Tutsa silk that goes with it. So this is going to be kind of I have some greens, I have some purples. So I have lots of things that I'm going to be kind of playing with as I move forward from this retreat. I will still spin some braids from the shop, but this has really kind of renewed my interest in spinning and combining things together and playing a little bit. And I'm going to go with I'm going to go with the inspiration where it takes me. So that is what I have for you this week. I know technology was a little different. The format was a little different. I didn't have tea, all the things. Next week, I promise I will be getting back to normal. I hope. I hope I'll have my computer fixed. I hope I'll have my desk set up kind of back to normal. Hopefully I'll have some good spinning to show you and some knitting to show you. Oh, I forgot the final thing. The final thing. And then I promise I'll be done. I finished my embroidered stockings. So I wanted to show you, this is the W was the one I was working on, and this is the final one. So that's the W, and I have the L, and I have the G and the D, and so that's all of us. Let me see if I can kind of, it's going to be too hard to show all these, I think, but let's see. So I have all of my stockings done, and now I'm going to pack these away until next Christmas. But that is another project that I managed to finish in January and February. And I'm really, really pleased with these. I'm very excited to pull these out for next year and have them be a fun addition to Christmas. So, with that, I really am done, and I will say happy knitting, happy spinning, happy sipping, happy crafting, stay warm, stay healthy, and I will talk to you again soon. Bye.